Hi everyone, welcome back to The Shelves Have Eyes. I'm Fantom, and today we will be doing a review unboxing of Transformers 40th Anniversary Emirate, Xaaron, and Autobot Flame 2-pack Generation Selects. Or rather, Generation Selects 2-pack. This is, I guess, the third or maybe fourth in the series of comic-exclusive redecos of Generations figures that were released for the exclusively on Pulse. The first was Comic Edition Shockwave that came with Optimus Prime's severed head from issues 6 and 7 of the Marvel Comics run. The second was, I believe, Comic Edition Grimlock, which was just a straight redeco of the Leader Class Studio Series 86 Grimlock mold, cast in comic-accurate colors. And then we had Straxus, who was a retool of Galvatron, Kingdom Galvatron, rather, as brand new comic-exclusive character Straxus. And now we have Emirate, Xaaron, and Autobot Flame. These are two characters that only appeared in the comics. Flame specifically only appeared in the Marvel UK run. And you can see here with this box art, it says the Transformers an Action Force, which was how it was billed in the UK. Emirate Xaaron is an interesting character. He began life as a secondary Autobot commander, I guess you would say, in the Marvel UK comics, and then eventually made his way to Marvel US when Simon Furman took over writing that book. And so he brought Xaaron over with him because he was an exclusive character that he had created. Both of these characters then reappeared in IDW 2005 continuity, and then at least Xaaron reappeared in the IDW 2019 continuity. Flame did not. It's an odd choice for original characters, but then again, for, 30 years, we have been asking for an Emirate Xaaron figure, or at least a Xaaron figure, and lo and behold, here it is. Looking at the box, we have a very nice comic representation. This appears to be from the last segment that featured Flame from the Marvel UK run, where Flame, as a mad Autobot scientist, Flame was going to essentially blow up the planet, believing that he was going to activate fusion engines that would be able to move Cybertron. And it was very important that he prove that he was correct, because I guess in the far past, Xaaron had said that this was a harebrained scheme and had discredited Flame. And so, for revenge, Flame tried to prove that he was right. And, in fact, just proved that Xaaron was right the entire time. So we have this very nice reproduction. On the top, we have an image of Flame and Emirate Xaaron. This is a very fat-looking Flame. It's a very strange design here. He was a very oddly designed character in the Marvel UK comics, as we will see. We have the very nice 40 Years logo here, along with the names of the two. On the side, we've got Flame and Xaaron as part of the multiple run mural that would be displayed with Comic Edition Shockwave, Comic Edition Grimlock, Comic Edition Straxus, and now Xaaron and Flame. On the back, here we go. Here's a great representation of what Flame looks like in the comic. It's just whatever, man. On the back, we have representations, renderings of what Flame looks like, and then what Emirate Xaaron will look like. On the side, we have more comic panels from Flame's penultimate episodes and the climactic episodes. We can see him transforming into his science tank mode and trying to blast Xaaron. On the bottom, we've got your standard disclaimer and legalese. And when we open the front of the package, you see both figures. You've got Emirate Xaaron, you've got Flame, and you've got Emirate Xaaron, and their accessories. Right here in the fold, it says, Emirate Xaaron leads the Autobot underground resistance movement. He is an inspiration for the Autobot cause, and many would lay their sparks on the line for him. And for Flame, it says, Flame has lost his distinguished reputation as a scientist. He is determined to carry out his master plans, no matter the cost. As we can see here, Xaaron is an extensive retool of the War for Cybertron Siege Refraktor mold, and Flame is a minor retool and redeco of Gamer Edition Megatron, War for Cybertron Megatron. And they both come with all of their accessories. These are inspired choices, quite honestly, for these two particular characters. So it's going to be interesting to see what they look like in person. So how about we open this up and see them out of the package, shall we? All right, so inside the package, you get Flame in his robot mode, Xaaron in his robot mode, Flame's science cannon, and you get these 4 pieces of kibble that you then apply to Xaaron. So you get a gun, 2 tank tread pieces, and essentially what amounts to a turret. And of course, you get instructions. So let's do Xaaron first. So I'm going to put Flame off to the side here. I will just place his fusion cannon in his 5mm peg. There. All right, so for Xaaron, looking at this, Xaaron as a character in the comics never transformed. We have no idea what his alt mode is, mainly because he stayed in robot mode throughout the entirety of the run. And in fact, it was a narrative point that in the Flame storyline, Xaaron was forced to consider transforming for the first time in millennia. And he has an internal monologue, and he states that it has been so long that transforming could be such a shock to his system that it could kill him. So Xaaron as a character never transforms. So we have no idea what his alt mode would be. This is, as it stands right now, a very good representation of his robot mode. Xaaron is known for his weird face, and specifically his mouth, which, like old 1980s Marvel Iron Man, simply has a series of 3 notches connected by narrow strips, and because it's a comic and we can't see it in motion, you don't know whether that means that his mouth actually moves if it's articulated, or whether he just speaks from a speaker or vocoder behind this immovable metal plate. So it's almost like a reverse Optimus Prime. Instead of a face plate, he just has a face with a mouth that doesn't move. I'd like to think that his mouth doesn't move, but who can really say? In the IDW 2005 continuity, Xaaron, they dropped the Emirate, which no one's really sure whether that is supposed to be a title or whether that is part of his name. In the Marvel UK comics, it was just Emirate Xaaron, but Emirate really isn't a true title. It's a name for a location, I believe, because it comes from Emir, which is the title, and an Emirate is the area that an Emir rules over. I'm not really quite sure what Simon Furman was doing there, but in the IDW 2005 continuity, he's just called Xaaron, and he retains his, I guess you could say, his place of pride among high-ranking Autobots, but he dispenses with his weird mouth. He just has a normal mouth in IDW 2005. And I'm not actually sure whether he has a mouth in the 2019 continuity. The key thing to note about Xaaron is the creator and commander of the Wreckers in the UK Marvel Comics. He was responsible for creating the team, and he's the one that sent them on all their missions. In the 2019 IDW continuity, he only appears in the Wreckers Tread and Circuits miniseries, and it's been so long since I read those, I'm not sure whether his face looks like this, whether his mouth looks like that, or whether he just has a normal face. I'll have to look that up. In any case, this is a very good representation. He always kind of looked like a generic bot, And this really retains that kind of generic boxy feel. He doesn't have any distinguishing features on him, so you can't really tell what he transforms into. There is a tremendous amount of negative space in this figure, particularly behind where his hands fold in, and then behind his head where his head folds back. But from the front, he looks really clean. The gold color is actually quite striking in person. I don't know about this fake comic shading paneling. It worked for Shockwave. I don't really think it's working quite as much here, especially since Flame really doesn't have any of that, with the exception being this stripe on his cannon arm. So it just seems kind of weird, but I like it. It looks very nice. Just looking at the bot mode, I wouldn't be able to tell that this was a reused Refraktor retool. In keeping with the fact that Xaaron does not transform and nobody knows what he transforms into, I like the fact that these pieces are essentially just kibble. They are just kibble that you attach to the figure to, I don't know, hide or show that he transforms into something. I guess you put the pieces here on his legs, and I guess he holds this shield. If it's supposed to be a shield, I guess it's supposed to be a shield. I don't know what that's supposed to be. And then this is a cannon or a gun. He looks really naff with his accessories, but I think that that's part of the charm of the character. Since you don't know what he's supposed to be, it just comes across as being a monobot, a monoformer, if you will, just with pieces of kibble given to him. So I actually kind of like that. I think that that works really well. I will say that for the most part, he has standard range of motion. He even does have ankle tilts, which is kind of interesting. He is very poseable, as one would expect, simply because the War for Cybertron Siege line is where a lot of the chug figures that we now kind of state are the be-all, end-alls for these particular characters. They originated from the Siege subline. So he has full range of articulation. He is very poseable. He has a bicep curl, but I think that that's mostly due to his transformation. His head is appropriately enough on a swivel. He does not have any light piping, so that's kind of interesting. He has ankle tilts. He can bend. He was never really of an action guy in the comics, so it's kind of fitting that he is kind of this standard. So I like this figure. I think it really does bring to life the character, and I think they really did very well with the face sculpt. The face sculpt is excellent, and I like the little details. Let me go get my Refraktor. So I have 3 identical Refraktors. I did not buy the Refraktor set that came with individual decos of Spectro, Spyglass, and Viewfinder. So these are just what they are. You can still form these into a camera. They just don't have individual modes. And I think that they fit a little bit better, I guess, as clones of each other. So they still look really nice. I like them. I think this is actually one of the better molds to come out of Siege, actually. I mean, as a troop builder, it was excellent. I think I bought all 3 of these from a Rite Aid because they were on clearance towards the end of Siege, beginning of Earthrise, and they were trying to get rid of the stock, and so I managed to buy 3 of them all at once. And yes, they do actually form into, I guess, they transform into a camera, and that's really all I was looking for. I mean, yeah, maybe someday I'll splurge and find a Generation Selects actual Refraktor pack so that they're all individually decoed, but this is really nice for what it is, and I never had any complaints. And you can see that each one of these I've modified what their guns and accessories look like, so they are not all the same. But looking at it, you can see, let's just take one, for example. You can see that this really is the Xaaron mold. It truly is. Everything about it is essentially the same, even down to this detailing on his arms. So they really didn't do much other than a new head and a retooled chest. There are no variances, really, between these two. This is just a straight Refraktor remold. And they really didn't do that much to it. I'm actually kind of surprised because this does not, just looking at it, this does not look like Refraktor. It's amazing what a different chest plate and a different head does to a figure. Yeah, I love this Refraktor. When I first made him into a camera, I thought that was one of the greatest things I'd ever seen. And now, looking at Xaaron, it's very clear this is the same mold. But whereas Refraktor kind of transformed into like a flying space boat, it reminds me very much of what they turned Shockwave into, since they didn't want to turn him into a gun. Since that is such a strange alt mode, it somehow seems fitting that Xaaron transforms into a weird tank. I've got very little to say about this. I think this is an almost pristine figure just because it perfectly encapsulates the character. And I'm just very surprised that they did that with just minor retooling. Very minor retooling and complete repainting. I'm impressed. This is really nice. I wonder if, yeah, you could probably just put his turret thing on his shoulder as like a shoulder cannon. You could probably put this on the side if you wanted to do like a Megatron fusion cannon kind of thing. You could also just put this here. My understanding is that from a design standpoint, they made it seem as though he's just a character with a lot of kibble. Just because you never know what he's going to transform into, and you never did know. So I think that that's interesting. I don't know if we even need these treads. I mean, I think he looks better without them, quite honestly. But, I mean, Refraktor didn't have those treads. They're unique to this particular version. But how about we transform him and see what he looks like in alt mode? So here is Xaaron in his alt mode, which is kind of a flying tank sled, I guess. It's definitely an interesting decision. I had to transform one of these Refraktors in order to show you what the Refraktor alt mode looked like. And, yeah, it's... essentially, it takes the exact same design points. Refraktor is simply longer because his feet clasp either side of his gun, and Xaaron has no gun. Not like that. There's still a piece that clips into the 5mm peg on his back. In Refraktor's case, it seems to be, it's part of his lens, and I guess it's a casing for his sled mode. I don't really quite know. But both have the exact same, I guess, canopy pieces, as though this is some kind of vessel. Xaaron's is smaller because his chest appears to be... that piece is molded differently than Refraktor. But for the most part, the chest pieces are exactly the same on the outside. So no, I like the fact that they're reusing something that they previously did in a way that seems new and novel. These tread pieces clip into this piece here and also into this 5mm peg on his arm for added stability. It actually makes a big difference in the feel of the actual figure itself, because the problem I have with Refraktor is simply his arms do clip into the front of his waist, but it's not really very good. It's very flimsy, and so these are constantly coming off. So having this extra bit of security here is, quite honestly, it's a great idea. Yeah, I'm not going to say anything wrong about this, mainly because there's no such thing as accuracy with Xaaron. He doesn't have an alt mode. We never know what he transforms into. Even in IDW, either of the IDW continuities, he's just a complete monoformer all the time. So, for what this is, I think that this is a novel use of a remold. It doesn't really look like much of anything, but then again, neither did Refraktor, really. And I mean, I guess you could say that this looks like some kind of tank. Odd that they're both tanks. But in any case, I think that this is fairly attractive, actually, honestly. And I got to give him props for reusing a mold in a way that makes it breathes new life into it. I think it's cool. So how about we move on to Flame? So here is the mad Autobot scientist Flame, and he really, there's very little that they changed about this figure from the Gamer Edition War for Cybertron. This is the Gamer Edition War for Cybertron Megatron figure. The only thing really different is just his head, and I think they might have sculpted his chest slightly differently. But all of the Megatron-specific kibble on his arms and his legs is exactly the same. These ankle tilts really aren't worth anything because they don't really move that much. And there's a tremendous amount of heel and leg in the way, so I don't know why you would really ever want to do that. That being said, it is a very nice deco. His proportions are a little janky, but his proportions in the comic were tremendously janky. I like the head, actually. It's a really nice new sculpt. But yeah, science tank makes a lot of sense. His legs don't actually bend because there's a stop here. I don't know if that's specific to this mold or whether that was in the Megatron as well. I thought Megatron had full range of motion, but I guess he didn't. I like him. He looks heavy and kind of gangly and kind of awkward, as the character did look in the comic. This was kind of a no-brainer, I feel, because when you think of, if you think of Flame at all, you just think of him transforming into his science tank mode. And that's just patently ridiculous for a scientist to begin with. But, I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to do a redeco of a tank-based Megatron. And considering the fact that Flame's science tank was hilariously kind of vague in the comic, it makes sense to use War for Cybertron Megatron's Cybertronian mode tank. It's a really inspired choice, quite honestly. Once again, I'm really impressed with the thought that went into how they were going to redeco, what figures they were going to redeco. In the comics, he was also larger than Xaaron, so this scale actually makes sense. I really like the colors. The choice of colors and the patterning of the particular colors is actually really well done. It's very eye-catching. And also, when you look at this, it's just like Xaaron. It's an example of recoloring a mold where something about the colorization of it makes it seem like a different figure. Like when I see this, yes, only minor things have changed superficially on the mold to make this into Flame, but the colors pop in such a different way that I just see Flame. I don't see Megatron at all. I mean, I know, obviously, this is the War for Cybertron Megatron mold, but no, this is a really, really nice choice. I really like it a lot, actually. He does all of Megatron's movements, clearly, because he is Megatron. And also, in the comics, his character kind of goes after Megatron. He piggybacks on Megatron's insane scheme to transform Cybertron into a war world. So, somehow this seems fitting that he would pattern himself after Megatron, I guess. That being said, he's got very dynamic options for posability, but that posability is somewhat limited. He has extremely nice posability in his torso and upper in his arms, and he has like no posability in his legs. Like, you can do the normal range of motion that you can with any kind of figure, really, and he does have very nice hip tilt, a hip sway, but that's really for his alt mode transformation. And these knees just, they don't do anything. Like, he can either be ramrod straight or he can bend them slightly. So he could do a megalomaniacal pose like this. But that's about the extent of the leg posability you get with this figure. So, I mean, know that ahead of time. I mean, I don't know. Are there huge Flame fans out there that were really, like, astonished and excited that they were releasing this set? I remember when they announced the set, I was more interested in Emirate Xaaron, because I always wanted an Emirate Xaaron figure. I didn't even know who Flame was. Then again, I only know Emirate Xaaron from when he began appearing in the Marvel US comics. I never read the UK comics growing up. So, all I know about Emirate Xaaron is he kind of was in charge on Cybertron in Autobot during the war, and then he becomes possessed by the spirit of Primus and gets blown up by Unicron in the, like, end of the Unicron saga. That's really all I knew about him. But I liked his look. So, I mean, as a kid, that kind of is everything. Flame, I never even knew. So, I had no idea who this was. Out of all of the Generation Selects comic editions, I was the most excited about Straxus. And I feel like that was justified. The Straxus figure is an amazing figure, mainly because the Galvatron figure itself is pretty amazing. But also, I think I like Straxus more than I like Galvatron. So, I mean, what are you going to do about that? But this is a very nice use of a pre-existing mold in new colors with very small, minor retooling to make it really into a different character. So I'm suitably impressed with this. So before we transform him, I just pulled out my Gamer Edition Megatron. And looking at the two figures, it is very clear that they really did not do anything to change this. The only thing they did was change the chest plate and the head, which is hilarious because I never realized that War for Cybertron Megatron had such a pinhead. That is effectively it. Everything else is just repaints. The only other thing they did maybe, they rounded off his thighs. His thighs? No. Yes, his thighs. They rounded off his thighs here, but everything else is exactly the same. His feet are exactly the same. Megatron does only have that slight tilt to him. He cannot actually bend his legs. But aside from the head and chest, that's it. It's the only difference of these figures. I will say that rounding off the thighs and rounding off the chest and giving him a larger head actually does fundamentally alter the character. Whereas this Megatron looks huge and brawny and imposing, like he did in Fall of Cybertron. This just looks proportionate. So, kudos to them for actually doing that. But yeah, it is essentially the exact same figure. But I will contend that my earlier statement remains true. It's amazing what just minor retooling can do to change how you see a figure. I really like this Megatron, actually, and I'm not going to
Butterfingers?
make any bones about it. I think that this is an excellent Megatron figure, probably one of the better Megatron figures, especially at this size, and also for fidelity to how the character looked in the game. This is clearly modeled after the War for Cybertron Megatron, rather than the Fall of Cybertron Megatron. Simply because some of the design differences between the two are very clear that this is War for Cybertron, not Fall of Cybertron Megatron. But yeah, I mean, just minor changes have fundamentally altered how this figure looks. And I'm all for it. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely amazing. So we were here we have Flame in his science tank mode, which, unsurprisingly enough, looks exactly like Megatron War for Cybertron Gamer Edition flying hover tank mode. Everything that I said about the robot mode still remains for this. It was an inspired choice to use this particular mold to make Flame, because Flame's science tank mode in the comic does look remarkably like this. I mean, it's not entirely like this. It looks a lot more like Blitzwing. Blitzwing, Legacy Blitzwing's tank mode, where it just looks like it has huge treads and a huge body with a turret on the end. Clearly they were working with what they had, so I understand that. I have no problem with it. It looks nice, and it is just as weirdly angular as Flame's science tank mode was in the comic. I enjoy this. It feels very solid. It's not going to wibble wobble and nothing is going to come apart just from normal wear and tear. This is Megatron, also transformed, and as you can see, it is exactly the same. All of the retooling that they ended up doing does not show up in the alt mode. The alt mode really is a one-for-one. Everything that they changed is hidden on the underside. So yes, this is exactly what it is. And I would say it looks really good. Really good. So I never had any problems with the Gamer Edition War for Cybertron Megatron mold. I think it's a really nice update of the mold. And so I think that this was a great choice. And it's eye-catching. And it looks really nice. Can't ask for anything more. So here we are at the end. And I have to say that I am suitably impressed by both of these figures. One thing that I failed to mention in the individual reviews was simply that there is a screw post here on the back of Xaaron that happens to be 5mm, and you can just inset his turret on his back so that he doesn't look quite so thin in the back. Kind of bulks him up a little bit. And for Flame, they've added these two little notches here on his thighs that allow, when you lower his chest plate down for transformation, there actually are places for those sprockets to fit in, those slots for those tabs to go into. That gives him a little bit more stability than Megatron did. Megatron does not have those. So, just continuing on with the minor retooling. I'm suitably impressed with this, as I kind of have been with all of the comic editions that I so far own. I really enjoyed the comic edition Shockwave. I mean, for what it was, and also it came with Optimus Prime's head. I really enjoyed the Straxus. This might actually be giving a Straxus a run for his money as my favorite comic edition release, because Xaaron is just a fan favorite, and I think the way that they realized him was really interesting. And likewise for Flame, just the minor retooling that they did breathed entirely new life into this mold. I mean, Straxus is what Straxus is. I love Straxus. Growing up, I really just wanted a Straxus figure. So I was really happy with the quality of the retool that we got of the Kingdom Galvatron figure into Straxus. But this may be slightly better, quite honestly. I mean, you get two figures for the same price. And, I mean, Xaaron is... You can't beat Xaaron. You just can't. He's a wily old buzzard. He's the leader of the Wreckers. Flame is virtually a non-entity to me. I mean, yeah, he did a lot more in IDW than he did in Marvel UK. And I guess for Marvel UK readers, he was very memorable. But as a person that did not grow up reading Marvel UK, he's not so memorable. That's all I can say, really. maybe I will give it more to Straxus, just because that is one of my favorite characters, so. But I am in no way disappointed with either of these figures. For this price, these two figures are excellent. And I remember when this was announced and they showed us the initial renderings, people were kind of up in arms over the fact that they were reusing the Refraktor mold after so long. And I've got no problem with them reusing molds. Retools, repaints, I usually don't have a problem with it. What I have a problem with is usually the Seeker problem, where it's just the exact same figure repainted or recast in a different color, and they say it's a different figure. That kind of bothers me after a while, particularly after the first three Seekers. Like, growing up, I have no love for the Coneheads. I could care less about the Coneheads. Starscream, Skywarp, and Thundercracker, though, yes. I have a lot of those three figures. And very rarely does anything differentiate them beyond the fact that they are different colors, which kind of irks me a little bit. I generally don't have a problem with retools that actually suit the character. So, for example, if they had done an IDW accurate Scoop as a retool of Scrapper, I would have had no problem with that, because that mold and that retool would have suited the character. What they're doing with Crosshairs and Sure Shot is just kind of annoying to me, because it is the same toy. It is the same toy, and it's very little has changed. Virtually nothing has changed. At least with this, we got an excellent new chest and head and thighs. And at least with this, we got an excellent new head and some new bits of kibble. But the retool has to suit the character. And I think in this case, the retool masterfully elevated both of these original molds into these characters. So I'm giving full props to the designers of this particular package. They did an excellent job. I really enjoyed doing this. I mean, hopefully at some point I'll be able to get my hands on Comic Edition Grimlock, because comic coloration of Grimlock is my favorite coloration of Grimlock, and it pained me to no end when I missed the opportunity to buy Masterpiece Grimlock in Comic Edition colors, the King Grimlock Masterpiece box. It bothered me to no end that I missed out on that, and the prices for him now are astronomical. I will probably have a better chance of getting the Comic Edition Grimlock figure in Comic Edition colors, and I believe DNA or some other company makes a third-party add-on kit that gives him the crown, the platter, the apron, everything that was included in the Masterpiece King Grimlock, just for scaled down for this particular Grimlock figure. So maybe someday I will get that, but that time is not now. So far we have done 3 of the comic editions, and I have been very happy with all 3 of them, quite honestly. Probably still going to give it to Straxus, though. I'm sorry, I've got a soft spot for Straxus. Now, if Straxus had to come with a Scrounge, then, I mean, there would be we would not be having this discussion. That would be an immediate favorite, right there. They did do a Scrounge figure, though, didn't they? It was a retool of Cosmos from Titan's Return? Titan's Return Cosmos? Think so. I don't have it. I think it was an exclusive in a pack. I don't remember what pack it came from, but I remember it being very expensive. And I said to myself, it's a Scrounge figure, but I couldn't warrant paying whatever it was at the time, whenever I heard about it. Maybe I was trying to get it on the secondary market. It was very expensive. But in any case, these are great figures. They are still available through, I believe they were still available on Pulse last month or the month before. And they are still available through BBTS. This is where I got these. I got these through BBTS. And if you are a fan of the UK comics, I would say by all means pick this up. This shouldn't even be this is a no-brainer. I shouldn't even be telling you that, because if you were a fan of the UK comics, you probably already saw this and already bought it. But in any case, I hope that you enjoyed the comparison with the previous versions of these molds, and I hope that you enjoyed seeing what they are like in hand. Thank you very much for joining me today here on The Shelves Have Eyes. I'm gonna keep continuing to roll out Transformer content. This is what, episode 46 or 47? I think it's 46. And I've got a whole room full of packaged Transformers that I still need to unbox and do reviews for you. Maybe I will finally start the Age of the Primes figures. I mean, beyond the aerial bots. Maybe I'll actually start the 13. I don't know. Maybe I'll wait until I have the Galaxy Force Vector Prime. I don't know. I have the original version of Vector Prime, so I could just still do a review on that. And I have the Alpha Trion version of that figure that was BotCon 2007, I believe. So I could just do that, because it doesn't seem like Galaxy Force is coming out anytime soon in stores near me. I know that Walmarts have started resetting, and so like the two Walmarts nearest to me have been completely wiped out because they are trying to forcibly sell all of their stock so they can do the reset and they won't have to mark them down for clearance. And I know that some other stores are just marking things down for clearance. So, I mean, hopefully, maybe you'll have better luck than I have. I've been checking Walmarts just to try to find Swindle. Swindle and the Herald of Unicron. I'd really like to pick those up, but I have not seen hide nor hair of them anywhere. Likewise, I have not seen the Insecticon 3-pack, nor have I seen Starscream, nor have I seen Onslaught anywhere near me in any store. I've checked 4 Targets and still have had no luck. But in any case, if you enjoy this content and you would like to see more of it, please think about liking this video, perhaps leaving a comment, and subscribing to the channel so you know when the next video comes out. Once again, I have a playlist of nothing but Transformers, and then individual playlists for the aerial bots, for Tarn Tuesdays, what have you. So check those out if you'd like. But thank you very much for joining me in this long-winded nonsense once again. I did enjoy these figures, and I enjoy seeing what the next thing I'm going to pull off the shelf to do a video on for you guys will be, because I have no idea. In any case, I've been Fantom. This has been The Shelves Have Eyes. Have a good night, y'all.
Transformers, defenders of truth, robots who fight in disguise. Transformers, when the battle is through, only the strong will survive. Told all I want, unknown soldier.